Welcome to the Beacon 1% Better Everyday podcast. I'm RJ Malik, your producer, and today Chip Kispert sits down with Parker Ence, CEO and co-founder of Jump, the fastest growing wealth tech application in industry history, with more than 30,000 advisors on the platform and a freshly closed $80 million Series B. Right now, here's Chip.
Thanks, RJ. Appreciate the intro. Parker, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to see you again.
I am so excited to have you on the show. Your team did a fabulous job at our round table that we hosted in November. And ever since then, I've been really excited to kind of get into it with you and have a great conversation and learn a bunch about what you're doing. So again, welcome. And one of the things I always like to do is get our guest talking a little bit about their background. And you have a very interesting one.
Yeah. So, grew up in Utah and have been kind of involved in a number of different startups. And my first real job was actually as a guitar teacher, but then kind of got interested in technology and building companies and have done a lot of different things over the years. My co-founders and I have a background in building primarily fintech and software companies. And so that was kind of, we didn't come, we are personally not advisors, although we have a lot of advisors in our friends and family, and they are actually the ones that pulled us into doing Jump, if you can believe it.
I think it's amazing. But you in your background, you spent time at Google, and I'm really curious how that shaped your view of AI.
Yeah. So, and I wasn't there very long. So I did my MBA at Stanford Business School. So I was right there in Palo Alto, right next door to Google. And I did my MBA summer there. And it was really the first time I had been exposed to AI and data at an incredible scale. And the team that I was working with, they had created this AI model that, and keep in mind, this was before large language model style AI. So this was deep learning or machine learning, much more arduous, right, to create these models. And the problem they were trying to solve is if you're a big company that has a lot of resumes submitted to you and you have a lot of job openings, how do you make matches? And so I think really for me, it was the first time that captured my imagination about how powerful AI could be in wrangling massive amounts of data and really making things easier. So I came away from that experience, loving it. Google's an amazing place to work, but really just fascinated by the potential power of what AI could do for all of us.
And boy, what's come down the pipe since is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me. 3 years ago, I didn't know who you were. And now every time I turn around, it jumps in the middle of a conversation.
That's very kind of you. To me, I feel like AI time is in dog years. So I feel like I've been at this for 21 years at this point, but it really has been just about 3 years. We started working on Jump in late 2022. And my co-founder, Tim, and we were seeing the incredible advancements of GPT 3 at the time. And we realized, wow, these large language models are finally practical and useful enough that you could use them for a lot of different things. And we said, well, one thing that we've always hated doing in our companies, and my co-founder has also started and run and exited other companies. We said, what we hate is typing data into places like a CRM. Mm-hmm. And if we can't get AI to save humanity from data entry into a CRM, then it can put us on Mars, and who cares? Like, we have to at least do that. And so we were building an AI assistant that would come to your meeting, take out all the interesting data, and then do all the data entry into the CRM and into other places for you. The original version of Jump literally was not a note taker. There was no note. It was just field level data ready to go into a CRM. And so,
Really?
yeah, so there was no note in the first version of Jump. And I remember, so, we were telling lots of people about this capability. And my brother, who's a financial advisor, was the first one to say, oh, I really need that. And then my brother-in-law, who's also a financial advisor, said, oh, I would love to have something like that. But it took until my neighbor, we were literally sitting at the park with our kids and they were kind of running around, and it was just after dusk. And I explained to him what we're doing. And he said, I love working with my clients. I love the investment management process. And his firm was a little unique. They actually started their own hedge fund kind of next to what they were doing. So he really, truly loves the investment management process. And he said, but what I hate is note taking and all this compliance stuff I have to do after my client meetings is the bane of my existence. And so that finally really caught my attention. And so, my two co-founders and I, we decided to narrow our focus to only work with wealth managers and financial advisors. And we had a pretty big learning curve. But at the time, this was early ChatGPT time. And it was kind of reaching a fever pitch of, wow, look how cool this is. But, most advisors that we talked to were really experimenting with AI really more as a novelty. It was like, hey, look, I got it to write a song in the voice of like Donald Trump or Eminem or something. It's like an original song about me. And there was a lot of excitement about the potential of AI, but other than the chatbots, there weren't a lot of actual use cases that were driving really good ROI. And so when we launched in January of 2024, we essentially said, hey, this could be something that actually moves the needle for you and helps in the day-to-day. And that's been really fun to see that evolve since then.
And boy, it's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I still feel like we are top of the first inning or chapter one, or pick your analogy, but we're in the very, very beginning.
It's interesting because in doing a little research, I found that kind of your goal initially was to cut admin time by 90% for adding notes and the like. Obviously you've gotten there. But one of the things that I'm curious about, you have a lot of years of data. You have a lot of years of learning. What are some of the things you weren't expecting?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's right. So the original concept was, if you're an advisor, you spend a third or more of your time on meeting related administrative work. So how does that break down? We've got to go dig through everything to get ready for the meeting. And then when my meeting's done, I've created an hour or more of administrative follow-up. I've got to go update my CRM, update my financial planning tool, send an email back to the advisor confirming what we're going to do next, delegate tasks, go execute on setting up the financial plan. Adds up a lot. So the original Jump concept was, we're going to use AI to cut that down by 90% by putting notes and tasks and data entry and research, pre-meeting prep, all of that on AI semi-autopilot. And that's going to get you back a lot of time. And the reason it's going to work is because we're going to integrate with the rest of your tech stack. We're going to make it so that you can customize all the AI outputs so that you sound like yourself and not like an AI generic robot, right? And then we're going to make sure that your compliance officer feels comfortable and actually is excited, because you're going to have better compliance outcomes. And then we're going to make it really easy to use, right? Because we've got some advisors that are new to the industry and they grew up on the iPhone and TikTok and they're ready to go with any tech. And then you've got some that are still afraid of their own email. So that's a pretty wide range. And so we wanted to design it for ease of use. And so that's going great. That's what Jump's best known for. And, as was mentioned in the introduction, we've got 30,000 advisors now using it, up from, our first advisor was like January 1st of 2024. So pretty wild.
That is wild.
And working with all about half of the top 25 RIAs, all the major IBDs. So it's been really fun. And the average advisor will say, I save at least an hour a day just from that, which is amazing. And so then we said, well, that's great. And we wondered for a little bit where that extra time would go. Like, maybe advisors would just kind of go home early on Friday afternoon or go hit the golf course or something. So we actually did a survey and we said, how are you using this time that's been freed up? And the number one answer was, I'm actually using this to either, number one, do more for my clients than I would have been able to do before. Or number two, I'm going to go figure out ways to grow. And so we got really curious about how do we help you grow faster? And organic growth is, the elusive white whale or the unicorn, right? If you can nail organic growth, you're in a great spot. And so we started looking at all the data that was collected in the form of a conversation between an advisor and a client. And we said, how can we actually unlock this data? This visibility into what's going on has never been available before. How can we use that to grow faster? And so that's kind of where we started. And so that's kind of where we are today. Is we've actually launched a whole new product called Jump Grow. And it's all about how do we help you detect more growth opportunities? So one of the top RIAs ran an A/B test, and they found that Jump was 2.5 times better at detecting growth opportunities than a human advisor. And when I say detecting growth opportunities, what I mean is, are we noticing opportunities for referrals? Are we noticing opportunities where there's some held away account or some other held away asset?
Mm-hmm.
Are we noticing opportunities to engage with the next generation? Are we taking action on anything like that helps us deepen our relationship with the client and expand what we're doing with them, or go get more referrals? We also found one of the top 4 broker dealers found that their Jump users were growing their AUM at double the rate of their non-Jump users.
Interesting.
So lots of amazing opportunities to use AI to drive organic growth. And it's been really fun to see that play out.
And I think, again, you're at the tip, it's so much bigger beyond. It's just amazing, and one of the things I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of broker dealers, a lot of large RAs on is, one of the things we see you drifting more and more towards is that operating system, and really being kind of the, you're pushing data here, there, and the outputs that come from it, along with the analysis. I mean, it's changing the game. It's changing the narrative.
Yeah, I think so. In this moment in time, we're in this Cambrian explosion of new companies. I've got a different brother-in-law, not the advisor, but different brother-in-law, who's at a mutual fund.
Okay.
And he showed me some research that they've completed recently that showed that there were 34,000 new software companies founded in 2025. And if you've been watching the Kitsis map, you can see some of those popping up left and right. There's more software companies today than I think there ever have been, which is great. That means there's a lot of options, right? Any problem you have, there's probably 3 software alternatives for you. But the trade-off there is, if you look at the ingredients for what does it take to actually be really effective with AI, you need to get your data in one place and cleaned up and labeled so that AI can know what it's looking at and has access to what it needs. And that usually means integrating with the rest of your tech stack. So you have the connections to read and write. And then you need the AI logic to actually do the thing that you want it to do in a somewhat straightforward way, with all the data and context and knowledge about how your firm operates. And then you need safety and compliance wrapped around all of that. So just a few weeks ago, we announced this concept of an AI operating system to try to deliver those things. If you're a small firm, you might come to Jump and get all of that. If you're an enterprise firm and you've built your own data warehouse or data lake, you might come to Jump for pieces of the puzzle. And so I think that's what we'll see over the next few years. The dream is I'm an advisor. I show up. I work with my clients. I've got an incredible relationship with them. AI is handling everything behind the scenes, everything that's backstage. And that all will, I believe, eventually be on autopilot, but it's going to require that operating system with the data foundation, as I've described.
And it's interesting because this parallels a conversation that I had 2 nights ago with another firm in the industry who's involved with compliance tech. So it's absolutely fascinating to me. So let's spin down to the advisor level, right? From the time they, basically open a meeting to the time that their follow-up ends up in the client's inbox, what does that process look like?
So we've come a long way since the early days, and now
That was 2 years ago, right?
yeah, long time ago, the early days. Yeah, it's funny that I would even phrase it that way. So in the beginning, today, the Jump AI meeting assistant, which we have creatively named Meet, MEET, Jump Meet.
Like it.
You may have noticed a minute ago, our product that helps with organic growth is called Grow. Okay.
Yep.
We try to make these very easy to understand.
Very simple, very straightforward.
The AI meeting assistant is now full cycle. So what does that mean? It starts with scheduling. So we actually now have a scheduling tool that's AI assisted that helps to keep clients on your calendar when they're supposed to be on the calendar, and they can schedule their appointments and they can get on your calendar. The next step is, okay, we're now a couple days out from the meeting. We want to start doing preparation. Jump will connect to many of your other systems, including CRM, email, calendar, past conversations that were captured in Jump, financial planning systems like eMoney or Right Capital or Holistiplan or tax status. Wherever you keep data about that client, we're going to connect to that. We're going to pull that in and generate comprehensive meeting prep and meeting agendas. So then you can walk into that meeting prepared to nail the meeting without having to spend 3 hours digging through everything that you should be fresh on with that client.
Mm-hmm.
So then during the meeting, you've got that at your side and you can focus on the client because you don't have to do note taking anymore, right? Because the AI is going to join the meeting, whether it's an in-person meeting or a virtual meeting or a phone call, even on your own personal smartphone. We have ways to tap into that audio, pull that in, process it. We take that unstructured data, we organize it, we pull out all the things that are important. And then when the meeting's over, you get an email that says, hey, this meeting's now ready to review. And so then what are all the things we have to go do after the meeting? We've got to update the CRM. So Jump's going to tell you, hey, based on your CRM and based on what was in the meeting, here's how we think you should update the CRM. Here's your note for compliance. Here's your tasks. Let's push those into your task management tool. Maybe those are cases. Maybe those are tickets, however you manage the work after the meeting's done. And you might say, okay, I know that Chip wanted to change the beneficiary or add a beneficiary to that second account that we talked about. You can go in and ask open-ended questions like, what did Chip say? Who did Chip say was the beneficiary on the third account we talked about? And you'll go pull that and search. And in the early days, I said it again, when we first started, that search was limited to one meeting at a time. A couple of weeks ago, we announced this capability called AI Associate, which does general AI-powered search across all your meetings and all of your systems of record. So you could say, hey, tell me everything I need to know about Chip, and it'll pull from all those data sources and bring that to you. And then you can also say, hey, Chip mentioned that his favorite restaurant is, I don't know, what's your favorite restaurant?
It depends. There's so many. As an example, here in Denver, I'll say, oh man, I eat outside of Denver more than I do internal. Who do I want to? Rialta.
Okay. So I might say, hey, after the meeting was over, when we were on our way out, Chip mentioned, is it Rialta?
Yeah.
Yeah, is his favorite restaurant in Denver. Add that to his file. And so then the AI associate can go find where to add that, right? And stick it in there. And then, maybe later it's like, hey, Chip's birthday's coming up. What should we get him? It's like, oh, how about a gift card to his favorite restaurant, right? The AI associate can suggest that. So, and then we've got a nice recap email after the meeting that summarizes everything, goes back out. So, and then the cool thing is we now have captured incredibly rich data that the next time I meet with you, I have this whole treasure trove of better data to make the next meeting even better. So those are some of the things that we do on the meeting cycle.
It's fascinating. And, it's interesting too, because in our compliance roundtables, note takers and Jump have been actively discussed in those, and how that data is being held, where the data is going, as well as what becomes officially books and records and all that. I'm curious about your take on that, because I've seen the swing, right? 2 years ago, they were like, no, not at all. Now they're like, yes, we just have to have the guardrails in place. But I'm really curious about your perspective.
So I think the first shift that's happened is that even the most conservative firms have realized that the benefit is worth the risks, right? No technology is zero risk. So the chief compliance officer, they're talking with the rest of the business and they're realizing, okay, number one, we're going to be growing faster. Our advisors are going to have a better experience. There's actually so many upsides here. We have to take this seriously.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, we don't want to be left behind because we see what's available.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the question is, how can we deliver these AI capabilities safely? One thing, and I'm going to talk specifically about the questions we get most often, but before I do that, one thing that has surprised us is in many cases, the compliance office has actually become a champion for this technology because they're realizing that the quality of the documentation for meeting notes, and if there's an SEC audit, you have to demonstrate, did we do what's in the best interest of the client? What's the evidence that we did so? The documentation is just way, way more rich. In fact, this is crazy, but this week we announced a partnership with Markle, who many advisors use to insure themselves. And they actually are giving a 10% discount to their customers if they use Jump, because they are so confident that if there's a claim or a complaint or some kind of lawsuit, that the advisor is actually better protected if they have been using this documentation capability. So I think that's been really fun to see.
Yep. Boy, it has been like 180 degree shift.
Yeah. So then the question is, well, how do you actually deliver this safely? The most common questions we get are, what about disclosure and consent? So we always want to make sure, just like if you've been to the doctor recently, your doctor used a note-taking AI tool too, right? But you'd want to know that, hey, I want to know my doctor's doing that. Just
at least the ones I should be going to.
Yeah. I would predict the next time you go, I mean, it's getting adopted just as quickly in medicine as it is in financial advisory.
I was with my wife last week and everything was on a note taker.
Yeah, pretty wild. So let's make sure the client is aware. And that's actually, depending on what state you're in, is legally required. The second thing is, how do we capture the data? What we see is some of our customers, they actually want a full video or audio recording as a record of the meeting. And then other customers very much want the opposite. They never want any kind of video or audio file of the meeting. And so Jump is actually the only company that can do it either way. And so the chief compliance officer can choose, do I want with recordings or without recordings? And then the next question is, how long do we keep that data? So I think the bottom line on all this is we've worked with so many firms now. You've got a menu of options. The chief compliance officer can come in and say, yes, no, yes, yes, no. And they're going to end up with a policy that they're going to be really comfortable with.
I could talk to you all day. I mean, this is rich stuff. As we're getting to the kind of the end here. And I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk about how you see the industry. All right. Who are 2 or 3 people or firms doing work right now that you admire? And why are they worth watching?
Lots and lots of amazing people, and the list could be long. I'll just pick a few. I think that Matt Middleton and the Future Proof folks are doing incredible work. And I think the way that they have elevated the idea of what an industry conference could be has just been really fun to see. So I really like what they're doing. I like Rob Nance and the team at Dispatch. What I admire about them is that they are just running through walls to solve one of the most challenging technical problems of kind of the middle layer of how do we actually get all these things connected. And we've got a partnership coming with them that we're excited about. I'll mention one more, which is, I can't name their names, unfortunately, but I think this is a really interesting trend that we're seeing. I think before this AI era, a lot of the very large enterprise wealth firms, they would often bias towards building things themselves because they weren't satisfied with their options. And when an organization has that as plan A, it's actually just from a cultural perspective difficult to think about doing it a different way. We've got a couple of firms that we're working with right now that have been traditionally heavy, we build everything ourselves kind of mandate. And they've realized that the pace of innovation now with how fast AI can be used to code and build software, it just makes no sense to have this kind of dogmatic, we build everything. And so we've actually seen in a couple of cases where folks have shipped their own version as a V1, but then they're coming back to partners and saying, we're actually not going to have pride about us building it ourselves. We just want the fastest path and the best outcome for our advisors. And so I'm impressed. That takes real leadership to say, hey, we're going to do it differently than how we've been doing it for the last 20 years. Like, we have to move faster. So I really admire that.
And to back that up and that comment, we are seeing a huge shift right now from legacy kind of enabled type firms that have been there for years to very agile, flexible, fast moving new firms that are really, their focus starts with AI and the platform. So, all right, we're at the end. One of the things that I always like to do is to give our guests 60 to 90 seconds where basically no script, no guardrails. What's the one thing you'd want to share with wealth management world? And you want them to hear it right now.
Yeah. Well, no surprise. My billboard message would be AI is going to change everything the same way that mobile phones and the internet and, pick your, the printing press. I don't know, pick your crazy technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to change everything. And that's an amazing opportunity. It's also a threat. And so I think specifically what we'll see over the next few years, the pace of business is going to go vertical. I mean, just the expectation of how fast I expect an answer back. It's going to be almost real-time expectation.
Mm-hmm.
The expectation of quality, because I can go get pretty good answers from ChatGPT now. I need to get really, really good answers quickly from my advisor. So my message is you just don't want to wait, right? There are going to be companies that are going to come out and say, hey, you don't even need an advisor. Just use our AI thing. And then there will be companies that say, you know what? The human connection is timeless. No matter how automated we can make things, I want that human connection. And I think the main thing here is do not wait to get after it with AI. You got to start building that Iron Man suit for yourself. And that's how we see our role in the world is let's go build the Iron Man suit for the advisor, give them all the power of AI, combine that with the essence of the human connection. We think that's the winning combo.
Love it. Parker, thank you. For anyone that wants to learn more about Jump or connect with you, where should they go?
So jump.ai is the website. You can learn more about us. You can do free trials. You can get in touch with our team. Follow us on LinkedIn as well. We post interesting insights that we pick up from when we collaborate with folks on the data, ideas to grow faster organically.
Love it.
And you can certainly find me and connect with me on LinkedIn too, Parker Ence. And if you're searching for Jump on LinkedIn, do Jump Advisor AI. You may accidentally find A-Rod's Ticketmaster competitor, which is called Jump. We get job applications for A-Rod's company sometimes, and we have to say different Jump. So
that's interesting. That's interesting. Well, Parker, thank you for being on the show. You've just kind of piqued my interest. And as I said earlier, I could talk all day about this. So thank you for coming and joining us. And we'll look forward to seeing how you continue to change the industry.
Thank you so much for having me. We'll see you again soon.
RJ, that was a fast half hour. I can't believe how much we talked about.
It was like a fire hose of information. I mean, it just kept coming, and I'm taking notes, off camera, and I just kept taking notes, and I'm just like, wow, but what really stood out to me is the simplicity of, in the beginning, how cutting down administrative work. And I started thinking that takes up so much time on different projects, and to be able to cut down the pre and post is just going to be amazing for companies, and what you can now take that time and focus on. And then, he mentioned how that's going to help clients grow faster. And, you have to embrace it.
Well, there was one question I wanted to ask is you can do more, but does that add more to your plate? But that's another question.
It's a balancing act.
Yeah. But the thing I'm amazed at, as you said, was really they're solving the time problem. And so that's for the advisors. From a compliance standpoint, they have pretty good documentation from these calls. So that was super interesting. So in many ways, the administration was never the point. Really, the data is. My second thought is, for this type of service and these note takers, compliance is a feature, and it's not a ceiling. It was fascinating how they really started with one simple goal. And you mentioned it earlier, help advisors put time back in their day. And now you just see this proliferation of different functionality that they're adding around them, the growth. That was one of the things I really took away. And then the final thing I look at, and this is new, right? The operating system question is really now, I think, the one that truly matters. And it's interesting why I'm thinking that. There's so much data that they have. Their integrations.
Yeah.
Everything can plug in. Those traditional tools that were out there as hubs. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Really enjoyed talking to Parker. Had a lot of fun. And, the growth was, in 24 months, 36 months, 30,000 advisors. Crazy. All right. So wrapping up, Really, really enjoyed that show. Before I leave, I like to quote Ted Lasso, be curious, not judgmental. This is Chip Kispert wishing you well until our next episode of the Beacon 1% Better Everyday podcast. And I want to thank Parker Ence.
Excellent. And we need to add in a shout out as this podcast is brought to you by Beacon Strategies, LLC, the go-to resource for roundtables, consulting, and services that support wealth management firms and their providers. If you need some industry perspective or help, please visit beaconstrategiesllc.com. Again, thank you for listening to the Beacon 1% Better podcast. We ask you to share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review because this actually helps others find the podcast. Again, thank you for listening, and for Chip Kispert and everyone at Beacon Strategies, I'm RJ Malik, and we look forward to you joining us for our next podcast.